animals today, so we better do our best to start on time. Let me share the screen and we'll get back to birds. Dawn, I did not forget your question, and I have bird lungs in 2 slides with an explanation that I hope you'll enjoy. And I added a bunch of other cool pictures of things that I would normally show you videos on, but now we're not doing that because we only have, half-hour class period or what have you. So at any rate, here's where we left off yesterday about birds. Oh, wait, one thing before we jump back into this. Sorry. If you haven't taken the world's easiest test, please do so. It is the short vertebrates test. It's 4 questions long, and it's basically the easiest free test points you're ever going to get because it's open note and it's super easy. It's an Edmodo quiz you can do online. It went out as an attachment as a Word document to the email I sent you and your family on Sunday. And it is also posted to today's discussion thread as a comment. So that's every way I can possibly get you a test. So please do that. It's like so easy. Just do yourself a favor and get those super easy test points. Anyways, a lot of you already have done it, by the way. So thank you for that, because it's very easy to get your final grade for the year. And that's going to be very nice. Oh, Tori's no longer Tori. What happened? Tori is Luke and Hadley. There's Tori. Very well. Hello, Luke. Hello, Hadley. Nice to see you. And now they're gone. Okay, cool. So let's talk birds. There's so many different types of birds, but this is a kind of a no duh slide. Birds have wings, which they use both for flight and for insulation. They have feathers, which are great insulation. They have super strong pectoralis major muscles, which allow them to fly. Hello, other sunglass wearing person on Tori's tiny screen. It's nice to see you as well, sir. They have a very efficient respiratory system, which we'll talk about in just a minute, because that's super cool. And with a one-way flow of oxygen, which to my knowledge is the only organism that has a one-way flow of oxygen through its lungs. I'm thinking about fish. Fish don't have lungs, except for arapaima. They have lungs. Anyways, moving on. One-way flow of air, which talked about, and obviously the circulatory system gets oxygen to their body tissues. No duh, which circulatory system doesn't do that? That's not new for you guys. You're smart. You know this. Okay, there's a ton of different orders of birds. We're not learning their names right now, so don't worry about that. But basically, birds are broken down based on a few of their abilities, like perching birds. That's the largest order. Pretty much everything that comes to your bird feeder is your perching bird. We're talking about goldfinches, chickadees, nuthatches, all them little critters that perch on the bird feeder. That's what we're probably most familiar with. And because there's so many available niches in terms of seeds and insects, that's going to be a very large order. There are birds of prey, which are a little bit more popular. Perhaps we're talking about hawks, falcons, owls, those kinds of guys who are oftentimes after the perching birds or after mice, voles, sometimes fish, those kinds of things. And we do have plenty of those in South Dakota. I'm sure you guys have seen red-tailed hawks, whether you knew they were red-tailed hawks or not. There's enough fence posts and hay bales to support a great many red-tailed hawks and plenty of mice in the fields for them. Then you have basically wading birds, tall, skinny legs, elongated beak. Sometimes, not always, the beak will actually point down at the end, which is cool because for those of you who shoot fish with a bow and arrow, you'll know that when something's in the water, it's much deeper than it appears to be. So a bird having a downwardly angled beak at the end, they can kind of aim at the fish, but their beak hits deeper than they're aiming. And that's a huge advantage to them, which I think is noteworthy. I think that's fascinating. And then there's ostriches, emus, and rheas, and those guys are your long-legged terrestrial flightless bird that are, just really, really, really weird. Super tall, strong legs. They don't really fly. They live in such hot environments that the insulation isn't probably all that necessary. But we have many birds that have adapted to very strange ecosystems when the niches haven't been filled by mammals. Just take a look at Australia and New Zealand, and the birds filled every niche. It's crazy. So there's all sorts of strange birds down there. So here's, your perching birds and your wading birds and your long-legged terrestrial birds and your birds of prey. Okay, everybody's seen this guy in South Dakota. He's very, very, very abundant. And you'll see the copper colored tail and know it's a red-tailed hawk. They also make the sound that's recorded and played during every movie that shows a bald eagle soaring majestically overhead. Bald eagles make an annoying sound, so they always use a red-tailed hawk with a much more definitive, powerful hawk sound and just put it over the bald eagle's body, knowing that nobody's smart enough to really care or know that except for you guys. Now you'll be like, that's not an eagle. Anyways, birds have no teeth. I don't know if teeth are just too heavy or if that's just the good way the Lord made them, but they have no teeth. So instead, they eat tiny, tiny pebbles. The pebbles fall into a muscular organ called a gizzard, which is below the crop. You're familiar with that from the earthworm. The gizzard contracts and crushes food using the rocks as teeth. Works pretty well. And then the gizzard allows the food to go through without allowing the rocks to go through. I don't know if I'll ever quite understand how that's managed, but it's pretty cool. Birds don't really have hollow bones. That's not true. Bird bones, they're like spongy bone. They're like little reticulated strands of bone that run everywhere. Bird bones are like a spider web of bones. That's what they're like, with a lot of empty space inside. But they are very lightweight. They're not very dense. And they allow the bird to fly. Feathers are awesome for insulation. Oftentimes, they're great for flight. And if they're very colorful, they will attract a mate. But that's a two-edged sword because they'll also attract predators. So beware of that. Well, you don't have to. You're not a bird. Feathers are a flat vein and a shaft. We could break that down into its individual pieces, and that is actually kind of cool. But for the sake of having half an hour to get through mammals, we're not gonna. So I'm sorry. Check out feather anatomy sometime. All right, there's two types of down feathers and contour feathers that you're probably familiar with. This guy right here is a downy feather, okay? Fantastic thermal insulation. The reason baby chicks are so cute is they're just little fuzzy babies, and they're super fuzzy because they've got down feathers. They can't fly when they're cute little fuzzy babies. Now, a lot of things like ducks and that kind of stuff, they'll grow these contour feathers. That's this guy. And they can fly and they can swim. They can do all this kind of stuff with these really cool feathers. But underneath the contour feathers, they will retain a lot of down feathers because that's fantastic for trapping air and being a great thermal insulator against the cold. The downside is it can make you very hot in a hot, hot, hot summer. So beware of that. Let's see. So we got that pretty well. Birds most oftentimes have clawed toes, pretty much all the time, I believe. 2 or 3, kind of depends on a bird. And they have a bone that is unique to them. Basically, where you and I would have our sternum, that's right there between your pectoralis major muscles. These guys have what's called a keel. Now, a keel is a massive flat sternum that extends down towards the bird's legs, and this is the site of attachment for their very, very large pectoralis major muscles, because all day they're flapping their wings. It takes a lot of muscle. So they have really big back muscles. Nope. They have really big chest muscles, really small back muscles. All the muscles pull that downstroke on the feathers and they compress a little wishbone just a little bit. That little springy wishbone springs their wings back up. Otherwise, if you think about it, you'd have to have the same mass of muscle on the chest and the back to flap down and flap up. But they don't. They got all the mass on the bottom. Flap down, spring up. That's kind of a cool design. I think it's a cool design. Anyway, so that's birds. Here's the respiratory system we were kind of looking at yesterday. I found this picture that sort of got the job done. Trachea, just like you and I kind of have going on here. Big lung in the chest. You and I have a pair of those. And then things get weird. A pair of abdominal air sacs. Then a pair of posterior thoracic air sacs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then anterior thoracic air sacs. 6, 7. Then air sacs between their clavicles. 8. 2 small air sacs right next to their neck makes 9 and 10. So how many lungs does a bird have? So many lungs. Anyways, and my little bars blocking this HD, but I don't know what you'd call it. I have a little like menu bar for zoom and it blocks things. So I apologize for that. So that's bird lungs, and they're incredible. I don't anticipate you to name or label those, but you have lungs and air sacs. When a bird takes a breath, 25% goes to the lungs, 75% moves to these air sacs. When the bird exhales, the other 75% goes to the lungs, and the result is that the lungs are only ever exposed to oxygen-rich air. They do not have this inefficient mixing of deoxygenated and oxygenated occurring at the same time and same place like you and I do. So it's not a big deal for them to migrate thousands of miles, and I'm winded after jogging to a mailbox. Okay, there might be other reasons behind that, however. Let's see. If you ever heard a bird singing on a tree branch and thought to yourself, I don't think I can whistle as fast as that bird is whistling. What is going on? And you might try to mimic them if you're, a weirdo, which is totally fine. I would do that too. You might notice, like, it's super hard to sing as fast as this bird is singing. What is going on with you? Well, here's the thing. You have one set of two vocal cords. They're right here in your larynx, right there. And when you push air through them, they vibrate. You can make a sound. Now, birds have three sets, two each, for a total of 6 vocal cords, which means that, much to your choir teacher's envy, they can hit more than one note at the same time, which is kind of cool for one organism, right? I don't know what good that is for, except for to attract mates and tell all the other boy robins that you're here first and you'll kick their butts. But that's what they do. So they can sing long, complicated songs. If you want to check out the lyrebird on YouTube, the more complicated the song, the more likely he is to attract a mate. And as people have moved into the rainforest, lyrebirds are mimicking the sounds of running chainsaws chopping trees down, and they are so freakishly realistic that it actually scares me. They will mimic the sounds of like motor-driven camera shutters when the photographers are videoing them, and it's really cool. So that's a lyrebird, perhaps the most complicated bird song that I'm aware of, but I'm also not aware of all of them. So that's bird calls. That's why birds sing. Yeah, lyrebirds. Man, maybe we'll finish notes early. I'll show you the lyrebird. So cool. I'll throw it on my moto anyway if you get bored and need more screen time, which you don't. All right. Anyways, let's talk about baby birds. Oh my goodness, he's so cute. Look at him. Except for these, those look like aliens. Disgusting. Anyways, that's altricial. The naked little alien with freaky black eyes is altricial. Okay, this guy's precocial. Pops out of the egg. He's like, let's get some bugs. Altricial chicks pop out of the egg and are like, I'm freezing to death. Put the grasshopper leg in my mouth, mama. And that's just, I don't know why they develop that way, but they do. Birds are weird, but man, they're so cute when they're fuzzy. Altricial chicks are born blind, naked, and completely helpless. Mom and dad will carry them insects and worms and things of that nature as they slowly develop feathers and hope that cold temperatures, rain, and South Dakota spring hailstorms and snow don't kill their little naked freezing cold baby butts. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. If it does, they just hatch out more eggs. No big deal, okay? Or they, build another nest, whatever. Now, precocial chicks, they hit the ground running. They're feathered out, their eyes are open. As soon as they dry off, they are imprinting on mama and following mama. And mama doesn't feed them bugs. They scratch for their own seeds. This might be too much information, but I'm pretty sure they are like hardwired to peck at things that stand out, because when my quail baby started hatching, man, quail eggs are all black spotted on a white shell, right? So the first one out of the gate starts pecking all the other shells, just pecking their black spots. And I was like, oh, poor guy, kind of being ornery, but he doesn't know it. It's just an instinct. So that's a precocial chick. Now, there's one more category, and this one is too cool. It's called super precocial. Super precocial is so cool and so independent, they don't even see their mama. When they hatch, they are alone. Mama doesn't even sit on the eggs because she's apparently the smartest bird in the entire world. This is called a megapode. It literally means giant foot, and it's basically like a jungle turkey. I don't know how this bird got this smart, but this thing is so cool. What she does is she will scratch up a huge pile of leaves, big old pile of leaves, and it'll get wet because it's in a jungle. And wet leaves, when they start to compost, can generate heat. If you take environmental science, you can heat your whole house with it. It's pretty cool. But anyway, so your compost pile, it can get up to 150, 160 degrees Fahrenheit, which will totally burn you and boil those chick eggs. But this mom is so smart. She will stick her nose in the pile of leaves and sense the temperature. If it's too cold, she piles more leaves on. If it's too hot, she scrapes leaves off and she monitors the temperature. When the temperature's right, she buries it with sand to insulate it, and mama hits the road. She leaves. It's so cool. These chicks are not kept hot by a broody mama sitting on them. They're kept hot by compost. And this is a baby megapode sticking his head out of the sand looking for his mom. He hatches underground, wiggles up through the sand, starts scratching around looking for food, and starts his life. He never even sees his mother. That is super precocial. And that has got to be the coolest bird in the whole wide world. I tell you what, I don't know how a bird gets that smart, but man, I'm not even that smart. I'm just trying to make compost. I'm not even heating anything with it. Anyways, this bird's got no claw tooth. If you didn't know, most birds have a goofy little tooth right on the top of their beak that they like kind of peck out of the egg with. This guy's got to use his little feet and claw his way out. But, you know, I guess another day in the life of a jungle turkey. Let's see. Movie, Megapodes. Not today. Sorry. It's on YouTube. Check them out. They're pretty cool. They're smart. All right, what do we got? Mammals. Yeah, mammals. Us. Finally, about time. Panda bears. Yeah, and dogs and cats and I don't know, whatever else you guys know of as mammals. Deer, mountain lions. Okay, what makes a mammal a mammal? Hair. Mammals have hair. Even dolphins, who are like pretty shiny smooth, their whole entire body, have little itty bitty bristles around their nose. So it doesn't have to be a lot of hair, but generally speaking, you think about dog, cat, bear, cheetah, mammals are pretty hairy critters. The other thing that make mammals unique is that they have mammary glands. Mamma, milk, mammal, milk, mammary, mammal. Okay, cool, got it. So what makes a mammal a mammal? Apparently the ability to lactate. Feeding the young milk is something that is unique. Alligators and crocodiles and turtles and amphibians, they don't do this. This is what makes a mammal a mammal. They produce milk to nourish the young. We do not have aquatic mammals unless you believe in mermaids. You know, I'm just messing with you. All right, mammals, they're breathing air. No duh, right? There's not an aquatic dog that I'm aware of, but that would be cool. Mammals have a four-chambered heart, just like the birds did, just like reptiles do, and that's very, very, very efficient because it separates deoxygenated and oxygenated blood. Mammals are endotherms, and they are generating their own body heat. You know this because you are a mammal. So when you get cold, you shiver. When you sweat and your sweat dries, you get cold, you shiver. If you get too hot, you sweat to cool off, that kind of stuff. Chat box. Does a dogfish count? Nope, that's a fish. If only it were a dogfish, like a real dog. That'd be pretty cool. And a catfish doesn't count either. That's not a cat. It's just a fish. All right. So endotherms make their own body heat. Generally speaking, we're talking about internal fertilization, and they have pretty good care for their young. Most mammals, I'll think this through. Most mammals are pretty good parents. Most mammals hang around and the kid is with mom for at least months, right? Before they are weaned. I'm trying to think of what a really fast mammal might be. Deer, 3-4 months till they're weaned. So it's pretty good parental care when it comes to mammals. Let's see, birth to live young. Oftentimes we'll use the word placental mammals because they're docked to mom's uterus via placenta. So there's a little tiny yolk sac, but it's not like you have a big chicken egg yolk and that's what they're growing off of. They're growing off of a placenta or the afterbirth. They nurse their young with milk. That's how you keep baby mammals alive. They do have lungs, of course. They live on land. They got 4 legs, generally speaking, 2 legs, 2 arms, if you're talking about us. And they are warm-blooded. So they are going to have to figure out a way to make it through the winter if they're in an environment where the winter is very cold. Hibernation is an option. And if you're a deer or an elk, you just get to tough it out and see how things go. Digestive system. Unlike birds, mammals have teeth. I think you probably learned this in middle school, but incisors allow mammals to cut vegetation. Canines are sharp and pointy and allow mammals to cut prey or also vegetation, like black bears, fruit bats have ridiculously long canines and nearly vegetation their whole life. And then molars are the flat teeth that crush and grind vegetation. You can kind of get a pretty good idea of an animal being a carnivore, omnivore, herbivore based on its teeth. Carnivores have pretty sharp teeth. Herbivores, generally speaking, think a horse or a cow, you're seeing flat teeth. You've got them all. Flat, sharp in the front, canines in the side, molars in the back for crushing and grinding food. So if you want to eat meat, go for it. You want to eat vegetation, go for it. You've got the teeth to pretty much take care of the job. Now, the cool thing about mammals is this is the first place we're going to see multi-chambered stomachs. We don't have this in any of the other animals we've looked at. Now, you don't have it either, but ruminants have it. So cows, which is our best example because we're in South Dakota, have what's called a rumen, and that's a section of their multi-chambered stomach. The rumen contains bacteria that are actually doing the digesting of the plant material they're eating. Cellulose is very difficult to digest, but that's the carbohydrate that grass is built out of. So if you're going to digest it, if you're going to eat grass all day, you got to have a way to digest it. If you and I ate grass, that would be called dietary fiber. Help yourself, but it's going out the way it came in, and you're not getting any calories from it. Now, a cow digests grass because she doesn't digest grass. She is a fermenting tank that holds bacteria that digest the grass. So that's pretty cool. She's got somebody else doing the job for her, and they do a great job, and she keeps them warm. And as long as the feed is all okay, then the bacteria are happy and she's happy. But sometimes she does like to give them a little more surface area to get their job done, because you sharp biology students know that surface area is key. And so ruminants do this delicious thing where they will vomit the contents of their first stomach into their mouths and then chew their cud while they stare at you with their mouth open, and then swallow the cud back down into a second chamber to give the bacteria more surface area. That is so awesome. What a day. What a way to spend your day. Anyways, there are some non-ruminants that are able to digest grasses. For example, horses don't chew their cud. Poor guys, they're probably jealous of those cows. Manatees also eat exclusively vegetation, and elephants are eating these guys' vegetation as well. These guys have a cecum. Cecum is basically a big bag that hangs off of their digestive organs that allows bacteria to ferment cellulose. I'm thinking pigs have an extension. I don't know if it's exactly called a cecum, but very, very similar, where pigs can actually eat grass as well. But pigs are omnivores. They'll eat anything that's holding still long enough for them to eat it. Those things are crazy. All right, let's talk about mammal brains. From a nervous system point of view, mammals are pretty sharp. They have some of the biggest brain to body ratios that you're ever going to find, and they have very extensive and complicated learned behaviors, not just including us. I like to think we're reasonably, brainy sometimes. Elephants, dogs, those kinds of things have very large brain to body ratio. Elephants can learn a lot in nature and in captivity. Dogs are the same way. You guys have all taught dog tricks. They learn very, very fast. And so mammals do have a very large brain compared to the rest of their body. Most of the young mammals pretty much are going to have a placenta attached to them. You got to take out those egg-laying guys like platypi, but everybody else is going to have a placentas attached to mom, kiddos birthed, then the placenta comes out as what's called afterbirth, and then the kid's drinking milk and growing that way. But the placenta is a capillary bed between mom's endometrium, the inner lining of the uterus, and the kid. The kid grows the placenta out when it's a teeny, teeny, tiny little embryo, docks onto mom's endometrium, has an umbilical cord, and it's where your belly, but you can thank your belly button for that. That's what used to be your umbilical cord. And mom is basically going to give that kid oxygen and nutrition from what she eats, and she's going to take the carbon dioxide and the waste from the kiddo. So the kiddo is getting a pretty good end of that deal. Oh, Australia, why must you have such strange things? Marsupials are animals that have no placentas. Opossums and kangaroos have a fertilized egg that grows and divides right in the uterus, and it's nourished by its small yolk sac. And the yolk sac is going to get this baby kangaroo to like this big. He's so incredibly small. And at that point, he will crawl. She does not pick him up. He will crawl out of the uterus and get himself up to Mama Kangaroo's pouch. It's like the equivalent of a brand new human walking many miles. I don't know exactly what it is, but it is a journey. And he will crawl up onto her pouch. And then there are nipples in the pouch so that he can drink milk, and he will grow and develop the rest of the way in the pouch. That is so weird. That is so weird. But that's a marsupial. Oh, you kidding us? Look at that guy. It's like a little hedgehog, but something happened to his nose. Oof, yikes. Anyways, monotremes. Monotremes, they're just, oh man, they're the worst. They're so confusing. They've got one body hole for excretion and reproduction, much like the cloaca. Swiss Army knife of body holes. It can do anything it needs to do, and incubates eggs like a bird. Why? Why, Echidna, do you do this? Monotremes also have no nipples, but they do secrete milk from what's almost a sweat gland onto their fur, and the young has to lick the milk off the fur after it hatches out of the egg. And you're just like, what is happening right now? Duck-billed platypi are a great example of monotreme. They have no teeth. They can sense electricity in the water. They eat small invertebrates like shrimp. And if that weren't enough, the males have a hollow, bone-like protrusion behind their ankles. And if you grab one and it kicks you, they are the only mammal, I think that's right, the only mammal that is venomous, that can inject you with venom. And you're like, you already lay eggs and don't have nipples and look like you're three animals combined, and now you're venomous? What is happening? All right. Anyways, echidnas, they're like a little hedgehog. They're so cute. Look at them. And they lay one egg on mom's abdomen and just snuggle it till it hatches. Because, when you live in Australia, you do what you want because you're Australia. And you don't care what other animals do. Got to give them credit for that. All right. Some mammal classification. 230. Here's the deal. You guys know these. I'll click through these real quick. You've got rodents. They got to chew stuff all the time because their teeth keep growing. If they don't chew on things, their teeth grow and grow and grow and grow, and that's ridiculous. Then you got an order of your carnivores. Your carnivores are bears, dogs, and cats. They're pretty much eating meat all the time, except for black bears, which are pretty much eating vegetation. Then you got your pinnipedia, which is the foot that is also a flipper. And there we're looking at seals, sea lions, and walruses. Fantastic swimmers. Some are insulated with fur, some are insulated with fat, some are insulated with both. But they're eating clams and oysters and things like that. Then you've got your aquatic mammals like your whales and your dolphins and your wall fins and those kinds of critters. And they've got one nostril right on the top called a blowhole, which you probably already knew that. And then you've got your primates, or the ones that have the ability to stand up straight. These are great apes, monkeys, and a variety of smaller monkeys. And they have opposable thumbs that are quite small, generally more complex social interactions. And we're pretty much just talking about vegetarian diets, although there are some odd exceptions to that on occasion. Then you have mammals with an odd number of toes. And this guy is like the jungle pig called a tapir. And again, they're eating ants and vegetation and that kind of stuff, but we put them in their own category because they have a weird number of toes. Then you've got the ones we're most familiar with, the even-toed. They've got long legs, 2 hooves, 4 hooves, pigs, hippos, camels, giraffes, deer, and cows. And scripture has descriptions on unclean animals and clean animals based on the number of hooves and whether or not they chew their cud. So I guess there's that. You then have mammals with no teeth. What? Anteaters, armadillos, and sloths. Some have very small teeth that work like teeth but don't technically have enamel, so we don't technically count them, but whatever. And then you have, oh my gosh, look at that bat. Goodness gracious. Flying mammals, which are big bats and small bats. And of course, they have very extended metacarpals with skin over top of them that allows them to fly around. Bats can eat 1,000 mosquitoes a night, so please don't hate on bats. I think they're awesome because mosquitoes bug me. Then we have mammals that just eat insects like shrews and hedgehogs, and wow, hedgehogs are super cute. We have sea cows like manatees that are their own order as well because they're herbivores and they have 2 nostrils instead of 1 blowhole. Then we have our proboscideans, which all have a proboscis, a long, movable nose, just like insects, but nothing like insects. And now we're done. 2 minutes over. Sorry. I didn't mean to take up 2 minutes of your time, but we had to talk about mammals. Okay, so do you have any questions for me? I am sorry I went over time. Half an hour is such a short time. Done.
So when do we come in and return our books to you?
Ooh, I have to look. I don't have my calendar with me. There's an email that went out, Don, and it's got by. I don't know if someone's answering you or someone's singing. I don't know, but basically, it's by letter of your last name. There was an email that went out in the weekly announcements from the front office, and think, I think it's next Tuesday off the top of my head. I feel like that's what it is. Somebody's shaking their head. No, I might be wrong. But there's an email that went out. It's got by your last name, what time to come in. And it's kind of by letters. And so alphabetized by last name. And so it's, I think, next Tuesday. Mitch is shaking his head no. I don't. He might just be psyching me out. It's hard to know. But anyways, that's, next week, Don. I don't know if it's Tuesday or Wednesday, but that's book return day. Yep. So you can come in, return your book A, book B. That's it. What's up, Mitch?
I didn't know I was shaking my head. I wasn't shaking my head. I don't know anything.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, we're in the same boat then. Okay, any other questions about mammals, birds, or the end of the school year? No? No? Oh, you're shaking his head that time. Going once, going twice. 3 times sold. Okay, well, hey, I just want to say before we go, thank you so much for your attendance. You guys, 15 of you are here, and I know I've seen like the same 12 of you literally every single time, and I really appreciate you carving that time out of your day. Have an awesome summer, everybody. Thanks, Don. I will have a good summer. I will see you at book return time, and you